It's already 8:35. Yes, it's me. Okay. Done? Okay, people are still walking in. Recording, okay? Nice.
Live stream, live stream.
Yeah, it's live stream.
Live. It's alive.
It's alive.
It's alive.
Hey, it's alive. Okay, welcome guys to Ruby Tuesday KL. Actually, number 454. Give yourselves a big round of applause for making it here. Woohoo!
54 divided by 9 is 6.
Huh? Okay. So, if you have not logged in yet, so the Wi-Fi is Collapse Asia. Password is Collapse Asia, 123. So this event is proudly brought to you by Collabs, who is sponsoring this awesome place. Have you guys checked out the place behind? If not, talk to Marcus over there. Like I walked. Huh?
Bring a map. It's huge.
What's that?
Bring a map.
Bring a map, yeah, because you get lost inside. It's huge inside. Like I know that there's a game room. There's a sleeping pod. Yeah, it's cool. And also like Rapid River for sponsoring the pizza. Where's Calabay? and and we are the KL Ruby Brigade. Now, so yeah, Wi-Fi. Who's here for the very first time ever? No. Yes. All of you guys, and of course Marcus. So we are usually in the Facebook group. You can actually find us by going there or going to rubybrigade.my, which redirects to the Facebook page. We are also on meetup.com, which is where we host all our events pages. So do check us out. You might also find Ruby Tuesday Penang stuff there as well. And we have a GitHub account with stuff. And the Slack channel, Ruby My Slack. So if you want to get yourself onto the Ruby community, Malaysian Ruby community Slack, this is the link to go. This is the only official one I know, so yeah, go there, get yourself invited. Go to rubybrigade.my/Slack_invite. And I'm Jimmy. If you guys don't know me, I host the event usually. And remember to introduce yourself to your neighbors. That's why the name tag is here for, so that your neighbors won't be too shy to ask to say hi to you. That's why we have name tags. Yeah, again. And usually at the end of the talk, we will have a session called the Ruby Tips, and this is where I will open up the floor to you guys. If you want to share something you found very interesting, tips, yeah, that's your moment. So I'll call upon that session, and you guys can just come up. Now, before we start, we have. Wait, where's Marcus? No, Marcus. I think he's entertaining some guests. Now, okay, let's do a shout out for RubyConf first. So we are having RubyConference this year at October 25th, 26th. Have you guys bought tickets? I know we have. Please buy your tickets. There's a lot of effort that goes into this conference. This is our third conference, so yes, nice. So again, I'm not organizing. So the good folks at Surya Labs is organizing. Huh? Buy tickets. So yeah, you hear them. Buy tickets. So student and early birds are still on sale until the end of the month. So if you want to buy it before the end of the month. Buy now if you can, so that they don't, they don't feel so stressed out. So go and check out rubyconf.my and get your tickets. Still, we don't have Marcus free. Wait, so I'm gonna do some hiring shout out first, maybe. So Umay has some hiring shout out. Yes. You want to come to the floor, Del? Yes. Give a big round of applause for Del.
So my name is Adele. I am working at Umai, which is a restaurant software company. So we develop software to help restaurants to handle reservation, to get more customers also. So I'm not engineer, I'm just a recruiter here.
Good, Umai, right?
Let's Umai.
Oh, let's, sorry.
Yeah. We're close.
Oops. Ah, let's.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
So yeah, that's it. We try to. We have two different softwares. So the first is called the Guest Center, and it's like a reservation management system and a table management system. So it helps, like it enables customer to book a table really easily online, and then it enables restaurant to handle all those reservation and the table management. And the second software is like a marketing automation software, which sends like automated campaigns, marketing campaigns, emails to the customer to re-engage the customer and to make them come back and to increase the revenue of the restaurant. And currently we are looking for a lead Ruby on Rails developer. So if you guys are interested, or if you know anyone who might be interesting, I have a Google form if you want to just let me your email address, name, and phone number, or if you just want to have a chat with us and to discuss about this software or Ruby or anything you want to discuss, you can just fill in this form. I will pass the iPad, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, if you know anyone or if yourself is interested, fill in the form. Next, oh, wait, is Amelia? Let me clarify that. Hey, put your hands together for Amelia from Collabs. Amelia, take the floor.
Hi. Let's use the mic.
Yeah, you can.
Hi guys. Oh, is this the one that works?
Yeah, this is the one.
Okay, hello?
Is it on? Okay. So it's probably not on.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hi guys. Okay. Welcome to Collabs Co-working. Just to give you guys a little bit of background about us, we're 2 weeks old. We just opened sometime mid of July. So we're actually an initiative by Paramount Property. So basically, Paramount Properties, we have like showrooms and we have different properties around the Klang Valley area. So this is actually our second location. We took up the entire floor actually. So how Collabs is different is that we want to encourage functional events, and aside from all the fun stuff that a lot of co-working spaces offer, we also have a mentorship room as well. Some of the things to highlight: we have a mentorship room where you can actually book a time with a mentor every month, and it's free. Also we have a nap pod. We have a couple of facilities like a game room, a photography studio. So you can actually, it's all free of charge for our members to use as well. Yeah, and then you can actually come here and get some coffee from our cafe as well. How they're different is that they're called Katulisiwa, which means in English is equator. So they serve your coffee and your food that's around the equator, so hence the name Katulisiwa. So all their beans are like premium Brazilian beans, Colombian beans, to make your Malaysian style coffee. So your kopi susu, your berekau. Unfortunately, they close at 7, so you guys missed it, but that means you guys have to come back again to try it. And also, for some of our rooms, we have approximately 56 over suites. And then we have different flexi and fixed desk areas span across the space. We can fit up to about 400 members. In terms of restaurants in this area, if you're familiar, it's abundant. There's about 450 to 500 restaurants in this area. So you'll never run out of options. So yeah, if any of you guys are interested to come here and work, everyone gets a free co-working space, free co-working day. So you can come here, just let our front desk know they're here for a free co-working day. Give it a try. All we need is just a feedback, just because we're continuously trying to improve. Yeah, and tell your friends about us. So,
Take a lot of pictures and share.
yes,
Instagram.
yeah, and any of you are interested for a tour after this, just let us know and we'll be more than happy to take you around. Yeah, show you around and stuff. Check out our game room, it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, you set it up last time?
Yeah.
I was here, it's not set up yet. So.
Yeah, it's set up already, so it's good. Okay. Cool.
Okay, thank you
Thanks,
so
guys.
much. Thank you. Anyone else have a hiring shout out for their company? Yes.
Okay, so I'm Jacob from WebAsia. So we handle a couple of websites, Says.com, Obulan. We're under Media Prima, so you have all the benefits of Media Prima. Cool. Good questions. You know, as in any big corporation like medical, dental, blah blah blah. So dental is a big perk. Not everyone knows dental. So we're looking for a mid-level Ruby developer. Not so senior, because that's me. Unless you want to replace me. Or we have a junior. So we're looking for someone mid-level, does a bit of design, does a bit of, you know, full stack, but is, you know, willing to learn. So that's it.
Okay, thanks. I know someone just like that. You want to come out and shout out for yourself? Or you walk around if you want afterwards? Thanks, Jacob. So we have a shout out for like a hire.
So I'm Abel. I'm 8 years into Malaysia. So I'm from Sweden. Yeah, as you all can spoke from there. So I'm a computer science engineering graduate, and I also have experiences in a lot of different other activities. As of now, I'm a publisher with Medium.com, PSI Launcher. And if you guys think that I'm suitable for some of the positions which you might know of, please say hi or hello to me. Then we can take it from there.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thanks. Okay, so you know who to look for if you are looking for candidates. Yeah, he's over there. I think you as well, right? Fahmi, you're good. I know you're good. Okay. Okay. Without further ado, this is gonna be the beginning of our talk at 8:30, which is I think like the latest we've started our talk at. So without further ado, we have two talks for you today. So the first talk is building a Slack bot, right? I don't know. You never gave me a title, so I say building a Slack bot by Tristan. And then the second one would be solving a mock Google interview by me. So put your hands together for Tristan.
Can I use your?
You want to use mine?
HDMI?
Yeah.
Oh.
You need this mic?
Yeah, I need it.
Like the stationary one?
No, I'll probably hold it and then I'll have it stationary while I'm typing stuff. Toot. I just put it on top of your laptop. So this is Slackbots in Ruby. If you want to participate in the demo later, you can go to, make sure you sign up at bit.ly/RubyMySlack. You can do that now on your phone, I won't mind. It's rubymy.slack.com and join the channel Lunch Buddies. And then we can, at least when we do the demo, it's not just the same people I'm spamming over and over with lunch invitations. So I'm Tristan. You can find me at Parasquid everywhere else. I work at Mindvalley, and in Mindvalley we have a lot of, we use Slack a lot. Lots of communication there, lots of integrations, notifications, etc. And one of the things that we do very well in Mindvalley is making connections with people. So I thought, why don't we facilitate more connections with each other at Mindvalley by creating something that will generate like a random pairing from people in the company, and then they just, okay, we don't have a reason. They can basically blame the bot for pairing them together and go for lunch. So it's not that, oh, I have to reach out to someone and have lunch with someone. It's because the bot assigned us together, so we're basically forced to go for lunch, even though it's not really like that. But so that's the thing that I try to build, and I'm trying to share. I'd like to share my journey and what I've learned so far building this. But before that, I'd like to talk about some Slack core concepts. This is also found, I'll share later the link on their documentation. A channel is, a Slack channel. It contains the member list, it contains the purpose of the channel, etc. A file is a separate entity, so these are the things that you upload. It contains like who uploaded it, what kind of file it is, does it have any integrations. A group is actually what's called a private channel. So there's a bit of history there. It used to be called a group, which is why the APIs has it as a group. But the branding, when they went more popular, they thought that a private channel actually describes what it is more. There's a public channel and a private channel, but of course, because an API is frozen once you've released it, it is called group in the API. So that's a group. An IM is an instant message, so it's basically a direct message with someone else. MPIM is a multi-party IM, which is a message maximum of 8. So it's a message between 8 people, and then you can always like upgrade that into a private group, and a private group, well, you cannot upgrade that to a public channel. So it's different from a group. A group is basically a channel that's private. MPIM is multi-party messaging. It's probably handled differently in the backend. A user, of course, is a user, and a user group is basically your role, whether you're like a contractor or something like that. So for this particular bot, we're mostly using channel and MPIM, because that's at least the most basic MVP here. A few more concepts there. It's the web API. It's like a RESTful interface where you can send commands, and you can receive some in return based on your command, like a response. So it's your basic GET POST request in HTTP. Events API will work with something with the next page later. It's basically a way for Slack to communicate with your application, and the RTM is the real-time messaging API. So it opens, you need to open a WebSocket, and you have to listen to the stream that Slack sends you. Many alternative Slack clients, like the WeChat plugin, for example, uses the RTM API to simulate basically what the Slack client is doing. For our purposes, we're just going to be using the web API. Last one would be the incoming webhooks. This is what's being used by the Events API. Basically, when something happens, you can set up an incoming webhook, which the Slack server will send you. So it will ping a payload to your incoming webhook, and that's where you act on it. You can also do a slash command where it will send something as well on you based on a slash command. If you do something like /hello, for example, and your bot or your application is configured to respond to that slash command, Slack will send a message to you, and a bot user, which what we're doing. So this is a bot user right now. It has OAuth capability, so it basically sees everything, and you can configure everything to talk to this bot user. There's a big, it's fine. It's just an image on their website. It's basically a flowchart on asking which API should I use, which is the web API, events API, or the RTM API. You have lots of decisions there. I'll upload the slides later on. These are where you can get all of that information. It's on Medium and on GitHub as well, if you want to follow up and improve on what we're doing. So this, again, the application is a lunch roulette. They say that the best way you can increase your happiness in the your happiness in the workplace is by having a friend in your workplace. So if you have a friend, it's actually very good for your mental health and you don't get depressed as much or something. So lunch roulette is one thing where you can, if you haven't been introduced to a lot of people, maybe you're in a 300-person company, if people are participating in the lunch roulette, you get to meet new people, maybe hit it off and make a new friend. Okay, so it facilitates random connections, having lunch with someone, and maybe suggest a place or a topic. So I might be, for example, I got assigned to have lunch with Carlos' friend, for example, and I don't know him that much, so maybe the bot can break the ice and say, okay, maybe you should have lunch at Domino's and talk about mentorship, right? So it just makes things easier and facilitate a random connection. And so I'll quickly go for the demo. Oh, it's very large font. Okay, the way I was developing it is basically getting a Trello board and then just putting in user stories. Again, the usual to do, doing, done. These are the stuff that I've done. These are the stuff that I'm still doing. I didn't manage to finish this for this talk, but I think it's quite MVP enough. It basically fulfills what I needed it to do, and it's already workable. We have the commits here, setting up the test RS. I'll just skip this because this is just Rails. This is just creating the RSpec and guard and all of these things. We'll go for registering the draw. Oh no, we don't need to do all of these. We'll just go for the last one. So again, this was done using TDD. Each of the stories have their own tests, and then basically each of them, when it's done, it has a test, it has the functionality, and it's done. It's moved to done. I will open this. You can say RSpec. Oh wait, I already have RSpec running. So these are all of the tests. You have 12 examples. RSpec. Sorry, this is not. If I save it, so this is the normal RSpec TDD guard workflow. You save something, you get a notification saying all of your tests have passed, and those things. The interesting thing here is that the only thing that actually communicates out would be the rake file. So basically, we generate a Slack client. I linked the Ruby bot to the Ruby bot gem that I used in GitHub. I'll send it as well on Facebook later. And using the lunch roulette application file that I made, we generate the pairs. For each of the pair, we create an MPIM, a multi-party instant message. You open it. The syntax there is a comma delimited list of users. I'll show you later when we run it. And the channel ID would be the group ID that this bot is in, and we post a message, hello there, you're up for lunch, as a user, so that it doesn't show up as my user, but as the bot user, because this is an OAuth bot user connected to my account, so I can either have the message sent as me or send the message as the bot. So sending as me, for example, is good if I want to automate some things. Like, for example, if my manager says, how's the project? I send them the link to Trello, and it's automatic. Like, I can say, if the message contains how's the project, then send the link to Trello. Then, because that's what I'm going to answer anyway, so it's going to be an automated thing. That would be a case when I want the bot to send the message as me. But at this point, I don't want it to send as me. I want it to send as a neutral party, just in case I, for example, become part of the lunch group. Okay, so let's run that. I will change the token, so people in YouTube, you can't. No, because we have an API key there. So no, I'm going to change it anyway, but yeah, that's fine. So for people who are there, so I don't think people are, we only have 5 people inside the channel. You didn't participate. So these people were, so this is how Slack actually, I'll make it larger. I'll just hide the, sorry, what? Oh, you got lunch with Caleb. All right. So this is I will copy this and oops. Yeah. Okay. That's good. All right. So I will. So this is how Slack actually identifies you. This is your Slack ID basically. And if you go to Slack, I also got a group. Oh, I got lunch with Jimmy. So hello, we're up for lunch. So this is generally how it works. And again, sorry. Yes, you have three because of this story. If there's an odd number of participants, we were 5, then we form a triad because otherwise the other person won't have lunch. And you can see, for example, you have a sequential number here, and then there's a, oh yeah, what if there's an odd number? And then that's why 10 happened before everything else. You'll see that the way it's done is like you just like churn out user stories and then you arrange them based on what makes sense, based on the thing that you're envisioning as the MVP. And so I thought that's probably more important than like number 6, reminding people to respond by 10:30 or something, right? So that is how it works. So where am I? Okay, so yeah, so you get a message. So this was a mistake. I accidentally matched people in the random channel. So if you're in random, you probably got a message from the bot, and I've been testing it. So it seems to be okay. And I think at this point, what I just need to do is to have a Heroku scheduler running at like 10 a.m. every day, and then getting this run every 10 a.m. and then just pairing people, and then that's it. Then this is like getting feedback at this point, and this is already usable. All right, we'll continue. Any questions so far on the bot? No?
Does it have to involve a bot, or can you just set up the
Yeah, so
with 2 persons?
because you're doing a multi-party, you cannot initiate.
You cannot initiate
for other people, except for myself, because the bot is attached to my account. So I can have the bot message as me, but I cannot have the bot message as you, for example. So if there were like 3 people, then it's okay, because I can have lunch with you, I can have lunch with you. But if you have like 5 people, Calum, for example, the bot cannot initiate as Calum for you. That's why the bot user is needed there. Plus the bot user is like a neutral third party, so like I don't have a choice. The bot said we have lunch, so we have lunch. It's a psychology thing. All right, so those are my learnings. But there's actually a part 2, and at this point I wanted to ask, well, because we were supposed to have the talk before dinner, and then I wanted to ask if you wanted to hear it, but I guess you have no choice now, and you have to listen to me. So what I learned here is not, while I was building the Slack bot for the talk, is that not just how to build a Slack bot, but also reinforce the way how we build applications in general. And so there's this story of Fitness by Uncle Bob. So have you heard of Fitness? It's like, no? Fitness? It's like, how would you describe it, Carlos? It's like a wiki that you can run tests on, and so someone can just write something there, and then you attach the test case, and then you have a wiki of a wiki. Yeah, something like that, and it's quite interesting. It's very much like, I forgot, it's not Cucumber. It's like a wiki with Cucumber inside, something like that. If you haven't heard about Cucumber, Cucumber is a BDD, behavior-driven development gem. So it's Uncle Bob did that. The original design was to persist it into permanent storage, because that's the end vision, right? In the end, you don't want your application to forget all of the test cases once you turn off the computer or you exit the application. You want it to keep on running, maybe some fault tolerance, whatever. But when they were first creating the application, they didn't deal with persistence at all. They basically just said, okay, let's just save it into RAM. So there's no even saving. It's just running the application, putting all of the pages as objects, and then whenever the application exits, then they just have to redo things. And so they just need to create like how do you say it, in test cases, like the seed files, the fixtures. They basically created fixtures to repopulate things for their test cases when they're trying things out. And as the application grew, they were making things. They realized that it's not actually the important stuff. That the persistence was really one of the least important things. It's really the behavior of the component that they had to get correct. And in the end, at first they didn't even need to use a database. They just wrote into flat files. They basically just took the whole object map, saved it into a flat file, and then rehydrated that object into memory. And again, at the final form, database saving was just a plugin, just another plugin that uses either the interfaces that they use for saving into flat files, saving into maybe CSVs. It's going to be the same interface as saving into the database. I thought that this was very similar to the story of how I was developing Lunch Roulette. So I thought, okay, we're going to be doing a Rails application, Rails new dot, so it's the current directory. I've already prepared the directory. No tests because I'm going to use RSpec, and if you use Rails, it's going to use Minitest by default. I don't like CoffeeScript, and I don't like TurboLink. So this is how I generate my applications. I create the stories in Trello, I'll do TDD, and then I ended up not using Rails at all, right? So like, I was actually quite surprised and also a bit happy that by doing it like this, I knew if I had a choice, I can package up the whole application into a gem. It doesn't even need to depend on Rails. Probably when I need to do like incoming webhooks, I'll probably start thinking about like a route and a way to direct that incoming payload into my application. But now, because of the way I did the application, I have a choice. I can use Sinatra, I can use Rails, I can use Pacquiao, I can use any of the new frameworks on top of my application, but I am not beholden to Rails anymore. And I thought that was something that I wanted to share as well as a learning when I was developing this. Because I thought when you type Rails new, there's a mindset there that you have a bias that whatever thing that you do with your application, it will conform to how a Rails app is supposed to be like. You need to start thinking about databases. You need to start thinking about controllers. You need to start thinking about the web. When, if you can see, this is not just about the web, this is really about an application communicating with another API. And maybe it's not even an API. The Slack related thing here, the only Slack related thing here is the rake file. I can do it like, maybe we can set it up in the office as a terminal that you just run it whenever we want to have lunch together as a group in the Scrum team, let's say. Or maybe we can repurpose it, maybe not as a lunch thing, but as a pair programming thing, right? So, okay, during Scrum, let's run the pair programming bot, run it, okay, it runs. It doesn't even have to communicate anywhere. It just displays whatever it needs to pair. And so when we start developing things in this kind of mindset, it changes the way we think about applications. Like, I'd like to talk about it as Rails not being your application. Although I'm not saying that don't use Rails, because Rails is a very good way to create one, and it's quite fast. You just do a scaffold and those things, but it's this mindset that it's not really your application. You have to think of your application standing alone by itself with Rails on top of it and in a supporting role. It's not the star and not the center of your application. Yay. Speaking of applications, we are accepting applications. If you can go to mindvalley.com/careers, we actually have a good program here called the entry-level developer. We are accepting people who don't have any experience, just a passion for learning. And you will be training with Aaron, a very good person, very cool. He will be guiding you through all of the stuff that we do at Mindvalley, and hopefully in the end of 6 months of the program, you turn out to be a very good junior programmer in Mindvalley. And yes, we have medical and dental, just in case you We're like from Asia level. And again, I'm Paris Good. I'm Tristan, and thank you for listening.
Any question for Parasquid? Any question for Tristan about his Slack bot?
No? Cool.
No?
Yay.
Yes? No? Okay. Right. Thanks. All right. All right. What about what? Yeah, because you guys are so late. You know, we decided to eat first. Huh? It's already done. Okay, let's do this session. I will turn to my slides wherever they are. Okay. So this is a very quick talk. So I'll be talking about this, solving the Google interview question. You might be wondering what is this thing about. So this comes from the video I was watching the other day from Tech Lead. You guys know this guy? Yes. Yay. Well, so this guy is a former Google and Facebook Tech Lead, and he has a YouTube channel that talks about a lot of these kind of technical things, and also often he talks a lot about weird stuff and do funny stuff. But anyway, this is the session that he mentioned about when he's going for an interview, like interviewing candidates. Okay, guys. Oh wait, you guys might not be able to hear this, I guess. Let me see. Let me try.
Already, and I will draw this picture. So this is the question that I really like to ask, and it is that given a grid, find the maximum number of connected colors. And you can see that in this picture, it is 5. It is those 5 blue boxes at the bottom. Now this is a question that I ask very often because it gives me a very good signal.
Okay, so this is the origin of my little experiment here. Not experiment, like practice here. So I was wondering how hard it is to do. So let's think about it a little bit. There are a few key concepts that I think you might need to think about when you tackle this. So obviously I've done this, but if you guys want to do it along with me, yeah, feel free to go ahead. If you have a laptop, just you can type along with me. But there's a few key concepts that I feel that will help us along the way a lot. So the first, I think, is that if you have a grid and you want to find like the longest connected chain, so you kind of need to iterate through almost everything. So that comes into the realm of what we call the depth first search or breadth first search. So basically you need to do both. So I'm imagining I'm gonna do something like a loop and then inside another loop. So something like that would be what I would attempt first, which is what I attempted. And this is also something similar to what's called the flood algorithm. So if you guys remember the paint bucket in your paint tool that you select a color and you click on somewhere, it just floods the color everywhere. It's kind of the same thing. So every pixel it will try to figure out what the pixel connects to and whether it has color or it has not the color, and then it floods everywhere until it stops at a different color. So if you're familiar with this algorithm, this is something similar to that. But if you're not, just Google this flood algorithm. the tech lead also said this is something that is very common in asking in interview question. The other concept, I think it's probably we're gonna use recursive functions just so that I can efficiently do my loop so that I don't end up with a lot of loops. So I'll probably do some recursive, and I'll probably think about how to handle my data structures, as in how to store my grid and how to store my results and there in between. So having gone through these concepts, I think it's time to just do it. Nope. Let's, how do I, okay. So, oh, don't go to the solution. So here I have a folder. I hope you guys can see. Let me make it bigger. It's a very simple it's a very simple setup. I'm running Minitest, and I'm running guard so that I can just make it auto run. So this is all the gem that I'm using. I'm using guard. I'm using guard Minitest, and I'm using Minitest color so that I can get a green and a red in my result. Why? Why? So, and my guard file is just a simple, almost like what's that? Boilerplate setting. So it's just watching the spec file in the test folder and also watching the source file, and therein run the test file that is matching the name. So that you can find this in your guard setting anyways. So in my test file, let me close this. So I have obviously the library that Minitest needs to run. So I have a grid generator, so I'm not going to talk about or go into this a little, but it's just a tool that I write to kind of generate grids and given a set of colors, you know. And this is the main class function that I will be using. So you can see here that I have a setting for colors. So obviously I can extend more colors. I can add, you know, yellow, magenta, or anything. And then this is something that I would do if I want to generate a random grid. So I would just give it the X, Y, the width and the height and how big it is. And so what I have here is a 10 by 10 grid that I know the longest chain would be red color first, and the length is 17. So you can see here the longest chain is actually this chain here. That is of 16 length long. So it's the longest color chain in this grid. So I will be using this to kind of write my test. So and this is just like a starting point where I would just continue from here. So what I want to have is let's start guard. So what I want to have is that this function, I want to have the ability to pass in the grid, and then I want to be able to run this function called find longest, and it will give me the longest length. I can obviously extend it into giving me the longest color as well, but let's focus on the length first. So this is also my simple TDD method, although I don't think I'm following exactly TDD all the way through, but this is a starting point. I'm gonna use this. So if I give it empty grid, then obviously it should give me 0. If it has 1, then I should have 1. So let's try and do this first. I will need this file. So you can see that right now it's actually failing because I have not done anything. So let's try and code this. Now, how do you think the easiest way is to pass this test? Yeah, just return 0, right? If I do 0, it should pass, right? Yay! So I'm done. But obviously, this is not the whole, business case. So let's extend our business case. So I want it to be like when there is only 1, then let's only return that. And obviously, this is failing now. Let's see what we can do this. So I want to be able to see how many item there is. So I'm introducing something called like what is this, color count, which is just me flattening and getting the count. So if let's say so if color count is 0, then return 0, obviously. So if it's 1, then I'll return 1. So let's see whether this pass. So it passed. So we literally just have a function that works for if, let's say, the world of grid solving is only one-dimensional and 1 item. So let's see whether we can solve this then. So I want to have a grid that is 1 times 2 dimension, and obviously this will fail, and it doesn't return anything because I haven't coded anything for it, but at least the first, oh sorry, this is 2, right? This should be 2. So this is my assertion. I want the function to return 2. Now at this point, maybe if I find the types of color, and if there's only 1 type of color, I can just return the color count, right? So probably I can cheat like that. So like type count, so would be just this flatten unique count. Yeah, so this one I will actually get how many types of color that I'm dealing with. So, and if, well, I will return the color count if this is equals to 1. Does it work? Yes, it does. So I've just created some simple thing here that actually works with this as well. Wait, obviously this should be 3. Oops. So that was that. Yeah, and that's that. So as we do TDD, so what we want to do is that we want to increasingly fine tune our test scenario so that the tests give us new knowledge on the business domain. So I think it's time that we tackle multi-dimensional, like more than 1 times 1, and also multiple colors. Let's try and see whether we can come up with this. But let's say we have red, just red and green, and I expect this to give me 1, because either one will be 1. So there's no longest chain here. It's just the same for R and B. So R and G, red and green. So obviously this fails, and what it returns is returning nil because I don't have this condition yet. So now I think now we kind of need to start our search through the entire grid. So remember the depth and breadth first search mechanism. I think it's a good time that I think we can implement this. So to do this, what I'm thinking is that let's try to find the width first, and let's see the dimensions of the grid. So I want to have the width of the grid. So the width is basically just the count of the first dimension. Let's just size. And height would be the size of the first element of the grid, because it's a grid, so there's no like cascadingly or stairs. So it's have to be a square. So we can assume that the height will be always any element that and the size of that element. So yes, so we will have width and the height already. So let's loop from there. We'll have a width. So this is x, right? And then so something like this will be the breadth and width for such. So what else is there? So do note that I'm putting the 3 dot instead of the 2 dot because I don't want to include I don't want to include this because the index starts with 0, right? So if the width is 2, I want it to be 0, 1 and 0, 1. So let's see what's actually going on here. So I should be able to loop through everything for now. So again, this is also my favorite way, which is just putting stuff out into the terminal as a way to do like a ad hoc DDD, so to speak. Now, so what do I want to do here? I actually want to start by, let's do some pseudocoding here. So I want to see what is the color, so let's check what's the color. I also want to count, the cell, if it, just count the cell, because no matter what color is this, when you're examining it, I'll just count the cell, and then I'll start to go and find the neighbors, right? So I want to find all the neighboring cells, so that means there's 8 of them surrounding the cell, and I want to do the same for each neighbor cell. So this is kind of the plan. I want to make this whole section recursive. You know why? Because it's easier for me to just do the same thing, because by creating a function and calling it again and again. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this into a method. So I want to say this is called traverse and count cells. So something like that, and I'll be doing everything that I mentioned inside here. So what else do I need to pass in here? I obviously need the location, so I'll probably just pass in X and Y. What else? I kind of need to know what color am I checking right now, so I'll probably want to know the color. So what is the color actually? The color is just the value of the cell, the location, right? So probably I don't really need to count. I don't even need to say the color. Maybe I should. So the color should be just the grid X and Y. So the color is this one, so I'll just pass in the color. What else? Then I think this should be it. So let's do this. So I have my X, I have my Y, and then I have my color. So check if the cell is the same color. So if this is your cell, then obviously this is your color. So on the first iteration, it doesn't matter. So what we'll do is that the color, we'll just set it to a variable. So the color is the color. If this is not equals to the color you pass in, you return. And then basically, the color is equals to, sorry, and then I want to continue to find this thing, right? So probably so I've done this, check the cell, same color. So I want to count the cell now, so let's start a counter. But the counter needs to be somewhere globally, right, so that I can pass along into the recursive. So I'll do something like this. So if there's no count, I'll start the count at 0. So then I'll start to count. So at this point, the color should be, you know, I should already know that, okay, this is my color and I'm counting you. Now, so I have counted the cell. Now it's time to find the neighbors. Now, I want a function to just tell me that my neighbors each do neighbor traverse and count cells again, right? So because I want to do the same thing on my neighbors so that they can find their own respective cells and so on and so forth. This is why it's recursive. The way that we do it recursively is so efficient. So how do we do this? Let's imagine that this neighbor just gives us the whole like 8 corners of our cell, and each of these will just have a location. So let's maybe do that. So the neighbors, you need to say the neighbors of, you know, who. So the neighbors of x and y, which is the location of the cell. Let's say I will just pass back a whole bunch of locations. So let's start with top. So if it's top, so it means that x is the same, y is -1, right? So this is top. So top right. So top right is x plus 1, y minus 1. Top right. Now, so right, it will be just x plus 1, y. So right. So top right, bottom right. So it's y plus 1. Bottom right. And then bottom will be x and y plus 1. Bottom left will be x minus 1, y plus 1. And left is the same y coordinate. The last but not least will be there, so it's x minus 1, y minus 1. We have 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, these are the 8 corners of my cell. So those are my neighbors. So if it's on the first row, then obviously everything on the top shouldn't be my neighbors because you're at the border. So the easy way that you can do this is by just filtering out the coordinates. So if you do say that x is less than 0 or y is less than 0, or I don't want it to go outside of my grid as well, so x also cannot be more than equal the width, and y cannot be more than equals to the height. So technically this will only give me the relevant neighbors. So I think this would do. So for each of them, the neighbors actually is a list of coordinates. So let's just call this neighbor x and neighbor y. Oh, really? Okay. Nay. How do I spell neighbor? Is this the correct spelling for neighbor? Neighbor x and neighbor y. So, so I'm passing in neighbor x and neighbor y. What is the color? So the color would be the color. And also I want to pass in the count so that it can keep counting. So I want to pass in the count as well. Now, at the end of the recursive loop, it should return to me the final count, right? So I have to find a way to bubble this thing up the recursive tree. So actually, in Ruby, everything is just referenced by object ID. So technically, I could do this, right? But the thing is, for numbers, they are immutable. So immutable objects do not get passed by, or you can't. It's not like you can't. It doesn't get passed. It's just that referring to the same object ID and changing the value will not change the original value. If you know what I mean. So you just have to take my word for it that you kind of need to set the counter again like that. So so I think by the end of the day I should have the longest streak for the color, and I should just pass back the longest streak maybe. But no. One thing I have to make sure that is that I don't count the cells that I've already been through once. So I kind of only have to go through each cell once. So I want to have like a instance variable that keeps track of where I have already been. So I want to do this like so. Maybe just like that. And then whenever I visit this, if I've already visited this cell, I've already count this, then I want to set the x and y to true. And if I want to return if this is already visited. Does it make sense? So I was missing one step, so I don't check if the other way around. Only if the color is the same, right? Only if only matters if the color is the same. Yeah, you won't get it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So technically, this should eliminate the double count. So I still need to find the longest, I think. So let's see. So the longest, if so, I want to set longest streak if longest streak is more than longest. So here I should pass back longest. What do you think? After all this code, do you think our test? Do you think our test passed? Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of things we type without running it, right? So and there's an error somewhere. So undefined method, this of nil class. So where is this? This is number 20. So the longest streak is nil. So this is passing back nil somewhere. I guess these are all like wait. I should just pass back whatever count. So, oh, it passed. So, have we solved this actually by just one pass? Let me just check. Let me check. This should be 2. Oh, it passed. Did we solve it just like that? So this is the most this is the most steps. Okay, let's try the 16 thing, right? See whether we actually solved it. So assert equal 16. So grid find new this grid find. Oh, we passed. So obviously I did it before, so a lot of the gotchas I've found when I was tweaking things out. And also I think this is a very good example of how not to do TDD. Yeah, so but unfortunately this is also how I write my code usually. If it works, right? Why do you need TDD? So a couple of things I found interesting is this, because initially I was doing this and I expected it to work. So I wasn't resaving the count, and I expected it to work. Because mainly I thought that so if you do this, then obviously it won't work. It will only get you. It will only be 1, because it will only take the first result of the recursive. The reason that I thought that this would work is because Ruby is you'll be able to pass in a variable in Ruby and then update the object, and it should persist. It's kind of like passing by reference. But then again, I remember that, okay, the easy way to figure this out is, again, not TDD, but kind of, you can quickly do this test. So let's say your count is 1. So the object ID is 3. So, and when you change the value of the variable, the object changes because it's pointing to an immutable object. It's different from, like, say for example, if you say say if you are pointing to a hash, if you point to a hash, this is the object of the hash, but you change the value, like say if you like that, the object ID stays the same. That's why you can actually use this trick to pass in a hash or array that you can just change the internals, but still get back the same object ID. So that was why this didn't work. But yeah, a simple fix like this would work. I guess yeah, that's the quick and easy way to do this. I find that
Did he do it the same way?
Hmm?
Did he solve it the same way?
He? Oh, you mean this guy?
Yeah,
He didn't even solve it. He was just blabbering about how he thinks this is a good test.
I would have done a different approach.
Exactly. So that's why, like, this is like my approach, and that would basically not be everyone's approach. And this is exactly why it's a good test, because it will basically tell you what kind of a developer you are in terms of how you go about and solve a problem. Obviously for me, the easiest way for me is to do the depth and breadth first search. Obviously there are other ways of it's more like different ways of traversing a tree. So there are many different ways of effectively traversing a tree, and I think if you go and search and watch this video throughout. He mentions also after that he will ask the candidate like, what do you think would be the limits of your code? Like, if let's say this table is like 100,000 times 100,000, so what would it what would be your algorithm behave? What would your algorithm behave? Does it come out with like a Stack Overflow, or you know, and what is the operational time? Like, is it on or is it on like square? So again, I felt like this is a good way to also test yourself and see whether you when, if let's say one day go to a Google interview and they ask you this question, maybe you can be prepared. So that's it for my demo actually. And any questions? Any questions?
How would you do the TDD approach?
I would do a lot more unit testing actually, because like the neighbors and also like the travel, so those are good candidates for unit testing. So obviously I will definitely do more unit testing. But the thing is, if you go to a Google interview, I don't think you have time for TDD. Yeah, so yeah.
Oh, it depends, right?
I mean, because I think they actually expect you to write a working program on a whiteboard.
What people that do TDD tend to say is that I don't have time to not do it.
Oh, but I've
you get the point, right?
Yeah,
because all it takes for you is one mistake, and
Yeah.
you get stuck in trying to debug and
Yeah.
and then all of your time savings are gone.
The thing is, this is a good question, because if let's say I go to an interview, or if I interview a person and then the interview session has a limited time, I want to be able to show off, or I think the interviewer will want to see most of my problem solving skills. If I have time to do TDD, obviously I would do like, but that's considered like cream on top for me. Yeah, but how often do you have time? I do feel, I do think that during your work, then definitely TDD always has this benefit. And like you said, who has time to not do TDD, right? It depends, I guess, on what you're trying to impress upon the interviewer. Do you think?
So when I do interviews, I usually start with test code and test. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
you need to follow it, but
Yeah.
that's how you start. So it's like
Exactly.
like a hint that if you want to go that way, that's
I would have continued, but I felt like it's getting too complicated. I want to finish my algorithm and see whether things break, but yeah, that is my way of dealing with things. Maybe that's why I might not be able to go into Google if they see me do things like this. But yeah, yeah. Something. Have you guys heard about Code Kata? We haven't done this in a long time, but yeah, but Code Kata is also something like this. It's an exercise for you to solve a problem doing the best, using the most ideal or the most clean way, like TDD, and make sure you test every scenario and make sure your test actually expands your horizon, and using that new knowledge to write your code. So it's like yeah. So we should do one TDD. We should do a Code Kata maybe next time.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the Rosetta code?
The Rosetta code? No.
Yeah. There's a website called Rosetta Code, or you can also yeah. So what they do is they have a bunch of samples of problems and the solution in like all the languages.
Yes. 99 bottles of this.
One of the things that I keep as an idea to do at the meetup is we find one that is like simple enough that we can solve together, and then we try to go through it.
Yeah.
If you keep scrolling, you see that there is like a solution in all different languages.
Yep.
And you can compare, but
Mm.
it's a good source of like sample exercise that
Yeah.
we could do together.
Yes, definitely. Let's try and do one next time. Any other question? Any other questions? Well,
I have an image on Slack
off. Breakfast search. Okay. Okay. Enough that jokes. That jokes. Okay. If there is no other question, then thank you for your attention, and that's all I have. Yes. Breakfast search. Okay. So that's all for today's talk. Let's go to Ruby tips. So again, this is a session where you can just come on and share whatever you want. The floor is yours. Anyone wants first step? Jakub? You never come, so when you come, you have to share. Anybody? Chirang? Oh yeah. Carlos. There is an ongoing joke that. Huh? You want to use your laptop? Or you want to use my laptop? Mm. What's that? Close the porn. Shut the audio. HDMI, right? Okay. Careful. How do I? Is this no? This.
Alright, so I don't know if everyone here or somebody here uses Docker, but something that I found out recently. Where is it? I think that's the largest I can do. No, I can. No, I can. Okay, that's very simple, but saved like a lot of time for me. So for those who's familiar with Docker, we usually tend to do like copy the whole folder and then run your bundle install. And everyone here knows that running bundle install is not very friendly. It takes a lot of time, even though you put a lot of jobs in every time. So when you just copy your gem file and then you run your bundle and then you copy, Docker caches this command for you. So even though if you don't change your gem file, it will never, your bundle install won't need to run again. So before this trick, usually I would do this. So what it does is, whenever you change any file, your previous cache is gone. And then this guy will say, oh, okay, there was a change, so I have to run the whole bundle again. So when you do this, you copy. So this gem file doesn't matter, it's isolated from the whole code. So you run here, bundle install. If there is a change, it will run. If there is no change, it won't run. And then you copy your things. It saves like lots of minutes of your life.
Super helpful, unless you're changing the gem file.
I have a solution for that. You want me to? Yeah. Also in Docker. Talking about this a few years ago. Like, I think I finally got it working for a few years now. No, it's like
a few times, and
yeah.
each time I do it in a different way.
Correct. Well, this is using Docker Compose. So this is my Docker file. I'll make it like it's just something that because we do lots of NPM now as well, so we have lots of this. So bundle is actually on the root of it. I create that, and so this is your normal bundle file. But in Docker Compose, what I would do is something called a volume, like a bundle cache. So it's actually a volume that's separate from your Docker image. And so when you run Docker Compose up, for example, it will attach all of those volumes. So Docker Compose is an orchestration layer for Docker. It creates it, and it's because it's persistent, it doesn't have to re-download everything. The bundle cache is a persistent image in your system where you run bundle for the first time. Of course, it will download everything. You change something in Gemfile, it's fine. It will still use the bundle cache to not download everything, and that's it. So this is the closest I can get to having a local Ruby development environment in Docker. And actually I have like a system in the office where I never install Ruby at all, and it's just everything is through Docker. So you do Docker Compose run Rails C something something, and it's been working so far. So that's it.
So can we get the volumes?
So you have a volume. So you have volume. So for example, so this is a bundle cache, and Carlos, this is what I used to solve the SSH problem.
Oh, okay.
For private gems is this. So the auth cache is also there because I don't want this as part. I don't want my SSH key to be part of the Docker image. So I have it as a auth cache. The only thing caveat here is that I have to run Docker Compose up auth so that the cache is saved. My SSH key is saved into the Docker volume, and that's how I do it. So for example, here on web, I put in the auth cache and the bundle cache. I assign them to the correct directories there, and then you basically just do the bash Rails run server. Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, what I did on the last time I solved this problem, is I just configure bundler to have its whole bundler directly inside vendor.
Oh yeah,
so
that's something as
everything
well.
that it downloads, all of its state is inside of the project. So then you run it as your user outside of the
and then you commit the gems, right? Yeah. So my problem there is because everyone else uses a Mac. I'm the only one who uses Ubuntu. So if I do that, the binaries are not compatible. So that's why I couldn't do it. Yeah, for example, Nokogiri, you need the C libraries.
You do the bundle install inside Docker, but then you can mount your keys and
okay.
And then you run it, it's installed.
I thought you vendor your gems and then you commit it.
Yeah, but when you do that inside Docker, you share the directory of your project inside the container, right? Yeah. So because it's gonna install everything inside vendor, then that's it.
Okay.
You have all the cache, all the bundler internals inside the
Okay. I don't know. I haven't tried it.
You're just committing the cache, but not the installed gems. And also, if you say lacking the Ubuntu version of the gem, you just commit that separately as like a separate gem in the gem cache. Then you can do bundle install workload.
I don't know. This one works for me. I'm staying.
The off thing was a good solution. About doing that.
It is like a few years in the making. Like me bitching about Docker and how it doesn't work on Steam. I think this is working.
Because I guess to deal with private gem cache gems, right? Yeah, because the project that I work with uses that local cache method. So
I think I'll write an article for this one. I'll write an article so that I can share it.
Sure.
And then maybe get some criticism. Hey, some simple way.
Because I guess we don't need to deal with the off problem. Yeah. So you have breakfast search. Any other tips you want to share? Yeah, sure. With your Ubuntu problem.
No, I use your
You want me to find it? Okay.
Ruby. Where do I get the terminal? I don't know Mac. All right, and how do I get the new tab?
What do you? Yeah. So if you want IRB, just IRB.
All right.
Did you keep the Chrome? Huh? Did you keep the Chrome you installed last time? The Chrome.
Oh no, of course not. Okay. So this is not really about Ruby. So if you have, usually when you have, especially when you have like workers, jobs in the background, sometimes you want to log into a server and see what they are running or what's the status of it. So one simple trick is you can change how your, you can change the name of a program or what you see on when you do PS. And that's, what have I done? I didn't touch anything. Could be. So in Ruby you can change like program name. That's a global, and you can assign anything to it. Hello, KL Ruby Brigade. I swear I didn't do anything.
Let's try again. I unplugged and replugged. It's you.
I know, right? I know. It's always me.
You want to?
Yeah, you want to plug in directly. Just try to plug in directly.
Look. I'm just unplugging and replugging everything.
Do you want me to plug it here? Or maybe this one would work?
Oh, that's?
This is, okay. It's trying to do something.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll plug it into mine and
Lol.
then let's see.
Try plugging in directly to the software.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Might be
Okay,
bit
that one.
You want me to take this?
That one. This one, right? Okay, anyway.
You want to plug into the source directly, right? No. Maybe it's.
I'm never gonna get invited for a Ruby tip anymore.
Let's use mine.
If you want, I can give up and not do a tip.
No, I think it's you. See, that's the third laptop. This was working just now.
Anyway. Do you just try another cable for it?
Okay, anyway.
I'll just go sit on my thing. It will work. Then maybe I come back.
You want a different HDMI cable?
I'm using a different HDMI cable. The one that they have.
Well, at least it fails now.
No signal. Why?
You might need to plug. You need to plug this. Oh, no signal.
Okay.
Not when you. Okay.
I'm directly plugging into the.
No, apparently I'm connected to something, but it's not going there.
Related to the source.
Yeah, because my.
No, you're connecting
Anyway.
to his.
Okay.
Oh well. Sorry.
Maybe you can just describe to us what's happening.
Yeah. You can read.
Alright. No, so it's a very common thing when you have like a bunch of workers and you want to troubleshoot, or at least know what's the status of your workers on a server.
It's gone.
You can, if you can change how you can see the worker name on PS, then just by doing PS you can see, okay, this work is on step 1 processing the file number 5 out of like 100, or this one is loading, is reading from, this is a processor for this RepTMQQ, it's doing the item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Ruby has a global called program_name. You can just assign anything to it, and that becomes what gets displayed on PS.
So you're gauging the status. So you're putting the status of your
Yes.
program into the
Yeah. So you can when you do PS, instead of seeing like processor.rb, you see like job queue worker 5 processing queue emails doing item number 3.
Does that change the terminal title as well?
No, because the worker is running on its own.
Well, not the worker, but a script, for example. No, I just.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to please.
It's not working anymore. You can
Yeah, the projector just died. I think the projector died.
I'm never gonna get invited again.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I guess we can't do another tip now.
I had another one, but I guess even if it worked, you wouldn't have.
Well. Okay, I can't do anything now. So anyway, I guess that's it for the day. That's it for the day. Thank you all for coming and thank you all for all the great shout outs. I hope you guys enjoyed today. See you guys in the next one. Right, see you. I better let them know the projector is not working. Huh?